I think it's actually going to do it this time. You never know your luck. Right. Yeah, it's done it. Amazing. Let me just make sure that the volume is switched off there. Oh, here's higher coming in. I don't know what it's doing. I don't know if it's actually. We'll find out, I suppose. Okay.
It did say it was recording onto YouTube. I see it at the top there.
Oh, that's grand. Okay. I just want to make. Oh, that's it. Yeah, I just want to make sure that's it. Great. Fantastic. Wonderful. Now then, where am I? Zoom. Great. Fantastic. Well, we've got like a couple more minutes for people just to sign on. So that's really good. Let me just get myself organized while we're doing that. So I've got my prayer. What's that? Well, that we don't need. Oh, yes. That's right. Now, I did actually make a English translation of this. So I can pop that for you. I'd forgotten about that. I can put it for you, I think, in the chat. Right. Now I did. Here we are. Admit all. There's more people coming on. That's nice. Okay. Let me pop that in the chat. I can add in a file. There we are. From my computer. And I can find it. Here we go. Right. Oh, I have to close it, apparently. Right. So let's close it. I'll have to close it, apparently. Oh. I'll have to close it, apparently. Oh, why am I getting this echo? That's probably from the... Why am I getting this echo? That's probably from the... That's it. Right. Okay. So... Are we all here? I think we're getting here. Good, great, fantastic. Now then, let me just what was I going to do? Oh yes, I wanted to send that file. I'll have another go at sending the file. Otherwise, I'll have to send it afterwards. Try it one more time. Oh, there we go. Enter. Right, so the article that we're going to be looking at today, I actually made an English translation for people who find the Hebrew difficult, or finding, you know, the movement between Hebrew and English difficult. You can download it yourselves, all right, and follow along that way. Also, I won't be able to send the Hebrew one until afterwards because I'm actually using it and you can't send it while they're open. All right, great, fantastic. Well, welcome everybody. Thank you for joining me. All right, it's very lovely to see so many people. Very, very lovely. And we're between Rosh Chodesh Shvat and TuBshavt, and there was a machloket, there was a discussion between, I can't remember who it was now, Hillel and Shammai probably, about when TuBshavt should actually be celebrated, when the New Year for trees should actually be celebrated. And the end result, as we know, was TuBshavt. But we're in that period of Rosh Chodesh Shvat, so of between Rosh Chodesh and TuBshavt. So this is a time when we can certainly look at what is the meaning of the New Year for trees for us. What does it mean in our inner work? What does it mean in our relationship to God? Okay, so that's what we'll be doing today. So those of you who learn with me and know me know that I like to start off our learning with a prayer. It's a prayer from the Ari, which is composed for learning Kabbalah. So we're going to say the prayer first. I'll say it in Hebrew and in English. All right. And then we'll go into our article that we're going to be learning. So let me just share my screen. And here we go. All right. And I want to dedicate our learning to the remaining hostages who are still in captivity, that we should merit to see them come out into freedom as soon as possible. ריבון עולמים ואדוני אדונים, אב הרחמן והסליחות, מודים אנחנו לפניך, אדוני אלוהינו ולאבותינו, בקידה בשתחוויה שקרבתנו לתורתך ולעבודתך עבודת הקודש, ונתת לנו חלק בסודות תורתך הקדושה, מה אנו ומי חיינו, אשר עשית עמנו חסד גדול כזה, על כן אנחנו מפילים תחנוננו לפניך, שתמחול ותסלח לכל חטאותינו ועוונותינו, ואל יהיו עוונותינו מבדילים בינינו לבינך, וכן יהי רצון מלפניך, אדוני אלוהינו ולאבותינו, שתכונן את לבבינו ליראתך ולבבך, ותקשיב אוזניך לדברינו אלה, ותפתח לבבינו הערל בסודות תורתך, ויהיה לימודנו זה נחת רוח לפני כיסא כבודך כריח ניחוח, ותאציל עלינו אור מקור נשמתנו בכל בחינתנו, שיתנוצצו ניצוצות עבדיך הקדושים, אשר על ידם גלית דבריך אלה בעולם, וזכותם וזכות אבותם, וזכות תורתם ותמימותם וקדושתם, יעמוד לנו לבל ניכשל בדברים אלו, ובזכותם תראיננו במה שאנו לומדים, כמאמר נעים זמירות ישראל, גל עיני והביטה נפלאות מתורתך, כי אדוני ייתן חוכמה מפיו דעת ותבונה, יהיו לרצון נמרפי, וגאון ליבי לפניך, אדוני צורי וגואלי. אמן, כן יהי רצון.
Amen.
Okay, great. So, Master of the universe and Lord of lords, Father of mercy and forgiveness, we give thanks to you, O Lord our God and God of our fathers, in bowing the head and prostrating ourselves, that you brought us close to your Torah and to your holy service, the holiest of services, and you've given us a portion of the inner meanings of your holy Torah. What are we and what is our life, that you've dealt with us such a great loving kindness as this? Therefore we lay our supplication before you, that you forgive and pardon all our sins and iniquities, and do not let our iniquities separate us from you. And may it be your will, O Lord our God and God of our fathers, that you prepare our hearts to have reverence of you and love of you, and may your ears listen to these our words. Open our uncircumcised heart in the inner meanings of your Torah, and may this our learning give pleasure before the throne of your glory as a sweet-smelling fragrance, and bestow upon us the light of the source of our soul in all its aspects, and may the sparks of your holy servants, to whom you revealed your words into the world, may they shine forth, and this, through their merit and the merit of their fathers, the merit of their Torah, their wholeness and holiness, stand by us, that we do not stumble in these words. And through their merit, enlighten our eyes in what we are learning. As a sweet singer of Israel said, open my eyes, and I will look on the wonders of your Torah. For the Lord gives wisdom from his mouth, knowledge and understanding. May the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable before you, O Lord, my rock and my redeemer. Amen. Okay, great. So now then, let's share my screen, and we're going to go into our TuBshavt article. Okay, so we'll get started at the beginning. Sorry, I need to get it to the beginning. Now, I actually prefer to learn with the Hebrew in front of me because although there is an English translation, I've put, for those people who came later, I've put an English translation as a file in the chat, okay? So you can refer to that. And you can download it and refer to that if you find the Hebrew or as me going through Hebrew difficult. I'm going to, I'll translate it as I go along, but some of you might find it easier to read that way. Okay, is this where we're beginning? I think there's actually a picture before then. Yes, here we are. Okay, and this picture is actually to illustrate the blessing that we bless fruit trees, okay, when we see them in the month of Nisan. And the blessing of the fruit trees when we see them in the month of Nisan is blessed is he who has not left his world lacking anything and has created in it good creatures and good trees for people to enjoy. ברוך אתה השם אלוקינו מלך העולם, שלא כיסה בעולמו כלום. He didn't leave anything lacking in his world at all. הוא ברא בו בריאות טובות, ואילנות טובות, ליהנות בהן בני אדם. And created in it good created beings and good trees to give pleasure to human beings. Okay? So there's a lovely, lovely feast of fruit trees in bloom to think about, to feast our eyes on. Okay, now, TuBshavt, the time of the budding of the fruits, it's when the fruits begin to bud, okay, and it's about, because a man is a tree of the field, Adam Eitz Hasadeh. This is for a letter which Rabbi Baruch Shalom Ashlag wrote to his students. I think it was about 1957. על ראש השנה לאילנות, שהוא ב-15 בשבט, מובא בגמרא. Concerning the New Year for trees, which takes place on the 15th day of Shvat, it's brought in the Gemara. באחד בשבט, מאי תמה? On the first day of Shvat, what's the reason? Like, what's the reason for celebrating the New Year of trees? Amar Rabbi Elazar, Amar Rabbi Oshaya. Rabbi Elazar said in the name of Rabbi Oshaya, Ho'il v'yatzu rov gishmei shana, because most of the rain days have already passed by. Okay? Unfortunately, it's not true this year, but we're still hoping for more rain. Ubarashi katav, and in the Rashi there, it's written, Shkva avar rov yamot hageshamim. Most of the rainy days have already passed. Shehu zman rivi'ah. This is the time of fertilization. Va'ala hasraf bi'ilanot. And the sap is rising in the trees. Nimtzu'u haperot chontin me'ata. And we find that the fruits are beginning to bud from now on. Okay? V'katvu b'tosafot. And they wrote in the Tosafot, Sheperush hazeh ugam lebeit Hillel. And this explanation of why we celebrate the New Year for trees at this period is also true for Beit Hillel, shesovmim b'tu b'Shvat, who think that it's appropriate to celebrate it on the 15th of Shvat. V'sham va'od, and there it's brought further, haiman denafik b'yomei Nisan, because a person goes out in the days of the month of Nisan, v'chazeh ilanei and he sees the fruit trees in bloom, v'omer, and he says, Baruch shelo chiseh me'olamo klum, blessed is he who didn't cause any lack at all in his world, u'bara bo briot tovot v'ilonot tovot, and he created in his world good created beings and good trees, l'hatanot bahen b'nei adam, to give pleasure to the human beings. Okay? V'yesh lavin, and we need to understand. מהו שלא חסר מעולמו? What does it mean? What's the connection between the words that God did not cause any lack in his world, אם הוא רואה שאילנים עליו לבי, if he sees trees in bloom? איזה הוכחה יש מכאן שלא חסר שום דבר בעולם? What proof does seeing the fruit trees in bloom give us that God didn't cause any lack in the world? Okay, that's a good question. Second question that Rabbi Baruch Shalom wants to ask is, Mo bara b'briyot tovot. What does it mean that he created in it good created beings? Eize re'iyah yesh mikan shabriyot hin tovot. What proof do we have from the fact that we can go out in the fields and see fruit trees in bloom that the created beings are good? And thirdly, ma'u kesher bein adam ve'ilan. What's the connection between Adam, the human being, ve'ilan, and the tree? Shehem tluyim zeh b'zeh. That they are dependent on each other. Ad she'omer briyot tovot ve'ilanot tovot. That we have good human beings. Briyot is usually relates to created beings. Of course, it means all creation, but the ones it really relates to is the human beings. Ve'ilanot tovot, and good trees. And Daled, madua imavu yomot geshamim. And if most of the rainy days have already passed by, hu siman Rosh Hashanah. Why is that a sign that it's Rosh Hashanah? But it's a time for a new year. Shetam zeu bein lebeit Shammai or bein lebeit Hillel, which is the same reason whether we're talking about Beit Shammai, who thinks it should be on the first day of Shvat, or whether Beit Hillel, who thinks it should be on TuBshavt. Okay, so I just want to show this, beautiful picture of the sap rising in the trees, okay, which actually you can see in the trees opposite my home, the pine trees opposite my home. You can see that actually happening. Okay, so Rav Baruch Shalom starts off his article with questions. And the questions are really important because the questions give you the desire to find out answers. The questions are the vessels for the light. Ulahavin et kol hanal, so to understand all that we've looked at just now, efshar lefaresh zot al derech avodah. We can explain all of these issues in the way of our service for God. How can a person reach the complete perfection, the wholeness of the purpose for which he was put on the planet? Okay? How can we as individuals reach the perfection for which we are, the wholeness of what for our the true purpose of our lives? Okay? All right, so far so good. I think somebody put something in the chat earlier, but okay. Yadua sheRosh Hashanah uzman adin. It's known that Rosh Hashanah is a time of judgment. What does that mean? It's a time of looking at things. It's a time of reflection. It's a time of seeing where I am and seeing where I want to go to. Okay? Shedanim et ha'olam l'tov u'chas v'shalom lehefech. When they judge the world for good, or God forbid, the opposite. Now, who's the judge here? We judge ourselves. We have a look at ourselves. It's a time of self-reflection where we judge ourselves to see, is it positive or is it negative? Rosh nikra shoresh, like Rosh Hashanah, is the beginning of something. It's the vision, it's the potential, it's the root. Shemishorish zeh yotzim anafim, and from this root come forth branches. V'tamid anafim nimshachim lifi malchut hashoresh, And the branches always go according to the root. Okay? If you have a root of an orange, you're not going to get branches of apples, for example. Okay? So in other words, this time of thought, this time of reflection, this time of looking at where I am and where I want to go to is actually important, because that will actually decide what will come forth from that thought. Okay? So according to the vision, according to the root, according to the idea that he's now looking at with himself at the beginning, this is what's going to dictate the organization of his life, the order of his life, what's going to be his priorities, what's going to be less priority for him. Okay, what's he going to put first? What's he going to put second? All right. So this idea of Rosh Hashanah is a time of looking at reflection, vision. Okay. Because the root, which is the Rosh, okay, the beginning, is the foundation on which the whole building is established. And this is true, by the way, also for the Rosh Hashanah in Tishrei, as it is for Rosh Hashanah of trees, okay, and on any other Rosh Hashanah. There's 4 of them in the Mishnah, okay, that the judgment which we judge, which a person is judged on Rosh Hashanah, Adam atzmo, it is the person himself who hashofet v'hadayan v'motzi lefoal. Okay, this is Rabbi Ashlag's understanding. It comes from his father of blessed memory, the Baal Sulam, that it is the person himself who is the judge and the dayan, the I don't know, the praklitut, whatever you call it, the attorneys, and the executor. All right. Ki adam hu dayan mochiach v'yodeh v'eid. He is all the different aspects of the court is himself. Like, we're the ones who need to do the reflection. We're the ones who have to look at it. We're the ones who need to develop the vision. We're the ones who need to decide what needs to be. And we're the ones who need to carry it out. Okay? So it's not something imposed upon us. On the contrary, it's something we want to do. Al derech she'amur chazal. And this is on the way that the sages of blessed memory said, yesh din lamata, if there is judgment below. In other words, if we do our work below, ein din lamala. There's no need for God to send judgments upon us. Okay, because we've done the work. Okay? Ukshamim. Okay, they talked about the fact that usually at this time of the year, most of the rainy days have passed. Okay, so what does the Geshamim relate to? Nikim chayut, v'ta'anug. It's the rain relates to life force and joy. She'aladam motziah ilan peirut, through which the tree brings forth its fruit. Shubechinat ta'anug shadam neneh mizeh. So it's looking at what gives us joy. What gives us a pleasure, okay? So most of the work of a person is in the days of the winter, in the long nights of Tevet, okay? Now, I know with the internet and with electricity and all that, we don't notice the length of the nights in the way that we did before we got all these modern inventions. But nevertheless, if we think about it, the idea of night is a time when God's light in the Kabbalah is the time when God's light is hidden. Okay, it's not the physical night, but it's the idea of night. It's the metaphor of night. Is the time when God's light is more concealed. Okay, so what is our work during that time? Okay, it's the work of faith. והנה מחודש תשרי שהוא ראש השנה הכללי, עד שבט, קבע עבור רוב ימות הגשמים. So in the natural order is that from the month of Tishrei, which is the general Rosh Hashanah, until Shvat, most of the rainy days have already happened. היינו, שאדם כבר קיבל חיות ותענוג, that a person already received life force and joy from the faith in which comes through the work of Torah and comes through his service for God. Okay, because this is the main avodah, this is the main work that we need to do in the time when there is less light, is the work of faith. Okay? So now a person needs to make some sort of accounting. Is this appropriate for him that he wants now to continue for the rest of the year according to this same work of Torah and service for God, or chas v'shalom le'efech, or God forbid, or the opposite? Ve'im yesh alav malach melitz, and if there is even just one angel who recommends, who vouches for him, echad mini elef, 1 in 1,000, lagid la'adam yoshro, to tell a person, yeah, you're doing good. Hainu im yesh lo zechut, that he's got a merit. As I magidim la'adam yoshro, they say, yes, you're going in the right way. Shiperusho sheyelech b'derech hayashar, which means that he needs to keep going on the straight way. What's the straight way? The way of doing Torah and mitzvot through faith, through giving unconditionally to God, through giving to his fellow man, v'ahavta l'recha kamocha, out of love. As I'm in the elef, then besod v'al efacha chochma. So now Rabbi Ashlag is giving some sort of like playing a little bit with the words. And he said, then I will, elef, the number elef, 1,000, in Kabbalah relates to the Sfirah of Chokhmah, means then a person's able to receive the light of Chokhmah, the light that God wants to give us according to his purpose of creation. But I like to take this also another way, and that is to say, in a more sort of straightforward way. And that is to say, okay, we started off at Rosh Hashanah, and we're now at Shvat, okay? But let's say I didn't manage all that much, okay? Let's say I had ideas on Rosh Hashanah, what I wanted to do, how I wanted to be, how I wanted to serve God, and it didn't always work out, okay? So what does this mean? It means never mind, okay? Even if you only managed a fraction of what you wanted, okay, of what you hoped for on Rosh Hashanah, but the most important thing is what you want, that we want to be connected with God, that we want to be connected with his service, that we want to be serving God, that we want to do Torah and mitzvot, okay? Even if we only managed 1 in 1,000, never mind, that is still good, okay? You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to do 100%. Just if you really want, okay, then you can say, yes, this is what I want to continue with. All right? ואז אחר דין ודברים שאדם עושה לעצמו, then after the sort of discussion that a person has with himself, יוצא זכאי בדינו. He says, yes, okay? היינו שמקבל על עצמו שמהיום והלאה יעסוק רק בדברים זכאים. He comes up meritorious in his judgment. He takes upon himself that from now on, he really does want to occupy himself with things which are worthy of him. Okay? שעניינו, which means, בדברים שהם אך ורק להשפיע, הן לשמיים והן לבריאות. What is the aspect of only for the sake of giving unconditionally? That we need to give to God and to our fellow human beings, just as God gives to us. Okay, God gives to us freely, unconditionally, with love. All right? So in the same way, We need to be like him, okay? We need to lidabek bo. We need to be in unity with him, which means to act like he does. Hadbek b'midotav. We need to be acting in accordance with his midot. Hein l'shamayim, both in respect to our work between ourselves and God, v'hein l'briot, and also between ourselves and our fellow human being. In other words, שעוסק בענייני השפעה בין אדם למקום ובין אדם לחברו. That a person decides that he wants to work for the sake of giving, whether we're talking about between myself and my fellow, or whether we're talking about between myself and God. וזה דווקא עם רובה זכויות, היינו שעד עכשיו רוב החיות ותענוג שקיבלה בדברים של השפעה. So this works, this is like we're looking at if his main intention is that he gets his life force and joy from aspects of giving, okay? Now, like I said before, it's not quantity. That's not important. It's more like where do you put your emphasis in your life on? Doesn't, even if you don't succeed, it's like what's important to you. That's what he wants us to look at. And if we see that it is important to us to work for the sake of giving, okay, to become in affinity of form with the Creator, then he's got the ability to decide that it's worth it for him to go forwards in the same way. And this is called that he comes out meritorious in his judgment. The opposite is also true. If a person also decides, nah, it's not for me, it doesn't give me life force, it doesn't give me anything, it's not what I'm interested in, then he could decide the opposite, God forbid. Okay? And that's actually a debt. It's like he's causing himself a debt because it actually stops the person coming to his perfection. All right? Nevertheless, let's just move now. We're going to focus on the positive here. Why? We're going to assume that everybody here on the meeting actually wants to be in connection with God, wants to do the service of God, wants to be in the aspect of giving that Rabbi Ashlag says. So we're going to skip to here, okay? Okay, so now we can explain the words of Rashi. Mishum she'avu rov yemot hageshamim v'ala hasaraf b'ilonot v'nimtzeu hapeirot chontim me'ata. Since most of the rainy days have passed and the sap has begun to go up in the trees, and we find that the fruits are beginning to bud. Hainu, im avu rov haleilot harukim shel yemot hachoref b'torah v'avodah. If most of the long nights, now what does the long nights mean? Okay, like you can say, well, I sat up at night learning Torah, or it could also mean that during these periods where God's light was hidden from me, nevertheless, I chose to stay with the Torah. I chose to stay with the service of God in faith. Both of these explanations are correct. V'alah hasaraf b'ilonot, and the sap is rising in the trees. V'yoder margish, and he knows and he feels, ba'atzmo, for himself, ad kama she'esh sorefet b'libo, how much the fire is burning in his heart. Adech rishpeh harishpeh esh shalhevet ya, in the inner meaning of her coals are coals of fire. You know, he's burning up with the flame. He wants to go towards God. So he carries on, yes, this is my direction. Okay, I'm going to be determined. That I really want to move forwards on this path. וזה פירוש, and this is the inner meaning of, ונמצאו הפירות חונטים מעתה, that from now on we're going to find the fruits are beginning to bud. היינו, מעתה והלאה, הוא יזכה לפירות. That from now onwards he's going to be able to merit to the fruits of his work. Okay, what's the fruits of his work? Dvekut b'Hashem, unity with God. That's what he's looking for. That's what he's wanting. That's what he wants to get to. He wants to get to unity with God. He wants to get to dvekut. Okay? Great. So here's a beautiful picture of a pomegranate tree where the fruits are beginning to bud. Okay, I have a few pomegranate trees in my garden, and you actually really do see them like this when they're just beginning to bud. It's not usually, I have to say, for a pomegranate tree, it's not usually around TuBshavt. It's usually a little bit later, but certainly the almond trees. I mean, around Tzfat right now, it's like magic. The almond trees are all in bloom. Incredible. Okay. So, לכן, TuBshavt נקרא Rosh Hashanah. So, TuBshavt, as we've seen, is called a Rosh Hashanah, a beginning of a new cycle. משום שקבע אדם עשה דין וחשבון לעצמו, because the person himself is making a decision, he's making a self-accounting, he's looking at his vision. אם כדאי להמשיך בעבודה על צד הטהרה, או חס ושלום להפך. Is it right for me? Is it worthwhile for me? Is it good for me? Have I got the energy for it to continue my work on the side of purity, or, God forbid, להפך, or the opposite? כי כבר יודע, אז מאיזו בחינה הוא יכול להמשיך חיים? Because he's now got the experience, okay, from the Rosh Hashanah till now, okay, he's got some experience of where do I get my life force, all right? Do I get it from Kabbalah Alatzmit, from receiving from myself alone, from using my egocentric bubble, okay, from using my Yetzer Hara? Does that give me life force? Or by using my energy to try to do good to my fellow human being, or to God. What gives me life force? What gives me energy? Okay? כי דבר זה ידוע, because this matter is known, שכל עבודתנו הוא רק להשיג את הרצון להשפיע, that our work is actually only to try to attain the desire of giving unconditionally. ורק על זה אנחנו צריכים להתייגע, and this is where we need to put our focus, this is where we need to put our work in. כי על הרצון לקבל לעצמו אין צריכים לעבוד, because on our will to receive for ourselves alone, we don't need to do any work. משום שרצון זה כבר הכין הבורא יתברך בשבילנו, because God gave us that desire. He gave us our desire to receive for ourselves alone. He gave us the egocentric, selfish desires right from the get-go, all right? זה נמשך לנו ממטרת הבריאה. And this comes to us from the purpose of creation, שהוא רצונו להיטיב לנבראיו, which is to give goodness to the created beings, ולסיבה זו בראת רצון לקבל. And for this purpose, he created the will to receive. Now, the will to receive that we have within us, which is our basic nature, it's our created nature, okay, is actually a good thing, all right? Don't let's throw it out the window. We need it, okay? Ultimately, it's through our will to receive that we will be able to receive all the good and joy that God wants to give us according to his purpose of creation. But there came about a tikkun, a correction of the will to receive, which is, so long as we are receiving when God is giving, okay, there is you can see there is actually a potential issue there, okay, that we're not in affinity of form. And spiritual entities, which are difference of form, separate, okay? So what we need to be able to do is turn around and be able to use our energy of our will to receive actually for the sake of giving pleasure to the other one. Okay, so use the same energy of receiving, and instead of which, use it for giving. Okay, and eventually we'll be able to even use even our actual desires to receive, that they themselves will be channels for receiving for infinite channels of giving. Okay, instead of being finite, small little things of receiving for ourselves alone in a selfish sort of way, they will be transformed as infinite channels of giving. But we're not given that as a given. That's the bit we have to work on, all right? On our will to receive for ourselves alone, on our basic native trays, we don't need to work. We've got those, all right? But how we use it, in which direction we use it, that's where the work is. And it's not intuitively obvious to us that we need to change our will to receive for ourselves alone into the aspect of giving. That's something we have to learn through the Torah. And if creation had been left in its original state, which is our will to receive for ourselves alone, if we would have been receiving the bounty and spiritual and eternal joy in our will to receive, the sages teach us, then the joy would not actually be complete. We would actually feel shame. We would feel embarrassed. We would feel uncomfortable, okay? Like we feel if somebody gives us more than seems appropriate for the circumstances. Somebody pushes stuff on us when we don't feel it's right, okay? What do we feel? Uncomfortable, embarrassed, all right? Why? Because we have within ourselves a natural desire to be like the light. In nature, every branch wants to be like its root. Like every child, every son wants to be like his father when they're small. Okay? Every branch wants to be like its root. And since our root is the Creator may be blessed, and he has no need to receive anything, therefore when we're only receiving for ourselves alone, we feel the bread of shame. Okay? We find that we feel embarrassed, we don't feel good. And if we received the light of God in that circumstance, then the creation would have come out in the aspect of lack. And actually, we can actually use this fact, okay, that we feel embarrassed, we feel shame, is that if we do feel embarrassed or ashamed by some action or word or that we've been doing, then actually that's a good indicator that we're not on the right track, okay? So then we could say, oh, I'm not right here. I need to backtrack. I need to say sorry. I need to change, whatever. Okay. But in order that the creation should not be incomplete, that we should not be receiving for ourselves alone, God created for us a tikkun. And what's the tikkun is? The tikkun is tzimtzum. That in the conscious state, when we're actually using our will to receive, then what we actually feel, we feel that God's light is hidden from us. As it's written, Mikol makom lo nikar shoresh mutza'o. And that is even though the life force, the life which is clothed within ourselves, within our bodies, within our reality, is actually the light which comes from God's essence. Yesh mi yesh means it's not created, it simply comes drawn from his essence. Mikol makom lo nikar shoresh mutza'o. Still, we don't actually know instinctively where it comes from. We have no direct connection with the Creator. A person feels himself to be an individual entity, and he has no idea where he comes from. I mean, there's billions of people on the planet walking around who have absolutely no idea or no connection with the Creator who created them. Okay, why not? Because of this issue of tzimtzum. So long as we are working from our egoistic nature, then we think that like our worlds become just ourself, basically. And we don't see the light of God, which is hidden. We don't see the reality of God. But the miracle that we get through Torah and Avodah is that we merit l'tikun. We are zochim l'tikun. We merit this correction of the way we see ourselves. We get correction of our will to receive for ourselves alone. And we come to Kabbalah manat lashpia. Instead of using our vessels of receiving for ourselves, we receive only for the sake of giving pleasure to the Creator, only for the sake of giving pleasure to the other guy. We merit two things. That through this, we merit to unity with God, and because we're now in unity with him, we're now able to receive all the joy which he prepared for us without getting separated. That we can now receive all the pleasure. And there's no shame attached because we did all the work, that we corrected our vessels of receiving, that they should be used only for the sake of giving, that we've now become in unity with God and we're able to fulfill his plan for creation. So in this way we say, wow, it worked. Everything got complete. It got perfect. And this is what it means in that blessing that we looked at right at the beginning, that there is really nothing lacking in God's world. So these words mean that lo chaser me'olamo klum, that these words are true, on the intention when we're able to use our will to receive only for the sake of giving. As we will say further on. There's something in the chat. Marvin asks, how do we make the switch? Good question. Okay, hold the question in your mind. Okay, because we're going to look at that. All right, a little bit further on. We're nearly there to looking at how. First, we're looking at what. All right. And so now we're going to make this connection between the trees and the created beings, okay? Which appears in that blessing, all right? Now, mostly when the Torah speaks about created beings, the Kabbalah certainly when it speaks about created beings, the main created being is talking about is the human being, all right? Because the human being has the choice to and want and the desire to connect with the Creator. All right. So, and according to the human being, everything else follows. Shechazal samchum zelazeh. The sages put the human being and the tree next to each other. Hinei katuv. It's written in the Torah. Ki adam eitz hasadeh. For a man is as the tree of the field. All the work that the farmers do on the trees, in order that they should be fit, like the best possible way to bring out fruit. No hagot gam ba'adam. It's the same work we need to do on ourselves. So in order that a person should be able to bring out the fruit, to bring about the unity with God, the dveikut with God, to come to unity with God, okay, to make the switch, like Marvin asked, we need to actually work on ourselves, on all the work that we do with trees, okay? Now, before we get to the actual work itself, one more thing. Ve'inan peirot hu tachlito shel ha'adam. The issue of the fruit is the purpose of the human being. What fruit do we want to bring forth? Avi od Mori Rabbi Zatzal, that's my father of blessed memory. Piresh Pam B'Su'uda Shel 15 B'Shvat, explained like this on the meal of the TuBshavt. Hatam shosim su'uda b'peirot. Why is the reason that we make a su'uda with fruit? Va'amar mishum shezeu kol ha'efresh ben kedusha lesitra achra. Because this actually shows the difference between kedusha, the framework of holiness, the framework of organizing our life through Torah and mitzvot for the sake of coming closer to the Creator, and the sitra achra, the side which is like, no, just do things for yourself alone, do things for your own pleasure. Kamosh katuv b'sefer Zohar, as it's written in the Zohar, elachei istaris v'lo avid piri. Elacher, the other gods, the false gods, okay? When we worship money, ego, power, politics, whatever, okay? We can all see which our particular false god is, all right? Istaris, it's sterile. Lo avid piri, it doesn't bring out fruits. Shemafurash b'hakdamat sefer Zohar, and it is explicitly written in the first volume of the Zohar, shemityabesh mekoram, that their source dries up. Ve'novlim. Okay, there's a picture of a tree which can't bring any fruit. All right, dried up and withered. And that's the other one, an apple tree, got lovely fruit. Okay, that's the contrast. So the withered tree, okay, the fruit of the false gods simply wither up until they're completely closed and they don't bring anything more forth. And those who walk in holiness merit to blessing on the work of their hands. Asher pirio yitain bi'ito, whose fruit it gives in its season, va'alehu lo yibol, and its leaf will not wither. V'lachein, Am Yisrael osim remez. So the people of Israel, the Jewish people, make a sign through the TuBshavt, b'chdei laharot she'ikar ha'peirot, to show on TuBshavt that the main purpose of our lives is the fruit. What's the fruit? The blessing which is the connection, the olam. The blessing is olam chesed yibaneh, that a world will be built with loving kindness. That's the blessing, okay? Because the blessing is the one light that travels from the Ein Sof all the way down to this world with nothing to oppose it in the other side. And what's the blessing? To see better relationships between ourselves and our neighbors, to see the world functioning with compassion and love. Olam chesed yibaneh. So those who walk in the way of holiness merit to the blessing of the work of their hands, whose fruit it gives in its season, and whose leaf does not wither. Okay, so therefore we spread the table on TuBshavt, filled with fruits, okay, to show that this is the blessing. So the fruits of holiness are that we merit to the revelation of God's light, of his divinity in the world. And we become like a fountain which increases and which never ever stops. And each one's individually and together as a community, we go from spiritual level to spiritual level until we merit the revelation of God's godliness within our consciousness. To say to God, he will have a delight in me because he wants me, and he will be for my crown. Okay, so Marvin asked a very crucial question. He says, how do we do this? How do we make the switch from our will to receive for ourselves alone to our will to give? Okay, that's the $1,000 question. So Rabbi Baruch Shalom Ashlag said, well, man is compared to a tree. Let's look and see what the farmers do to help the trees bring good fruit. And from this we can learn what we can do to help ourselves bring good fruit. So the work that is customary to do on trees is given also to a human being to help him come to be fit to produce fruit. And how do we know what work is done on trees? Well, if you look in Masechet Shvi'it, which is the Masechet which deals with what you don't do in Shemitah Yeh, it tells you all the things that you don't do in Shemitah Yeh, because those are the things which you don't do, okay, that you stop, like a Shabbat, okay. Shemitah year, the 7th year, is like a Shabbat for the agriculture, just like Shabbat is for us at the end of each week, okay. So there, in fact, is brought all the different actions that the farmers do to work on the trees. And from this we can learn about the work of a human being. Okay, and this is his language. Mazablin. Okay, so the first thing that farmers do is they bring zevel. What's zevel? Compost. Okay, so machnisim lem zevel. You take the refuse of the garden or also of the kitchen, all goes into the compost heap, all right, and it gradually transforms and breaks down into fertilizer, okay, and then you can put that around the tree. Okay, so what do we need to do? Well, we need to also look at the fact of compost within ourselves, look at the rubbish, to look at the negative traits that we have within ourselves. Now, what is different for human beings with respect to trees is that for the trees, we have to bring the compost from the compost heap to the tree, okay? But we don't need to do that for us. Zevel Shalom must speak. The wills to receive for ourselves alone, the negative traits, the egocentric bubbles, whatever, okay, the appetites, whatever. We've got plenty rubbish already, all right? Actually, we are born with plenty negative trays and lowly trays. And they become compost. In other words, they don't need to go to waste. They don't need to be pushed aside in some dusty corner or swept under a carpet. Okay, they can become transformed. Okay, they are transformable into fertilizer to bring about the good fruit. Okay? כמו שאמר אבי אדמו"רי רבי זצ"ל על פירוש רש"י, okay? שהיו אומרים על זבל פרדותיו של יצחק, better to have the manure from the mules of Yitzhak, ולא כספו וזהבו של אבימלך, and not the gold and silver of Avimelech. So what does he need to do? What do we need to do this work of composting? צריך רק להביא את הזבל מהאילם אל הגילוי, to become aware, to bring the compost, the negative, the rubbish, from being hidden to awareness. זאת אומרת, לתוך הרגשתו. Needs to bring it into his feeling. שירגיש מידת שפלותם של המידות המגונות שבו. And when he can feel how lowly these negative attributes that he has are, then he's able to correct his deeds. Because so long as he's feeling okay with them, he's just going to carry on using them. Okay, so what you need to do, or if you stay unaware, then you're also going to carry on using it in an unconscious way. What you need to do is you need to bring it into awareness and say, that's not really where I want to be. That's not what I want to be doing. Feel at its ihsa, okay, and then you can ask for help to correct it. Okay, that's compost. Ma'adrin, hoeing. Chofrin b'ikare ha'ilanot. All right, so you dig around the roots of the trees. כמו כן, אדם צריך לחפור ולחקור את עיקר תכליתו של האדם מהי. Likewise, a person needs to dig around and investigate what's his purpose. Why was he put on the planet? Why was he, or she, as an individual, put on the planet in this particular life? L'shem ezu matara ba l'olam hazeh. What purpose did he come into this world for? And to actually figure it out, actually work on it. Okay, dig around the roots. Okay, and think clearly for yourself. What's your purpose? Miablin. Okay, what's miablin? Well, apparently they're kind of like warts or blisters that can come on the tree. These are mumin hanoladim be'ilan, okay? And these are sort of some sort of blemishes that come in the tree. Yabelet nikar devar shemichutz legufo. This is a sort of a patch or something that comes on the outside of the trunk. Okay, and how does that relate to the human being? There are certain matters that a person can do, and people can see them from the outside. Or here's my picture of doing the work of the tree. Let me just, there's a nice picture. I worked hard on this picture. There you go. Okay, so can you see that? We've got this, there's a nice tree, and the guy is hoeing around the roots, getting rid of finding out what his true purpose is. There's the compost, okay, all the rubbish ready to put around the tree and give it fertilization, kind of like that one. And then here's another one. I tried to get the guy pruning. All right, so there we go. All right, where did I get to? All right. Oh yes, so here is a situation where a person is doing, oops, there we go. Let's zoom in a bit so we can see. The person is, maybe he's telling his friend you know, how great he is, and look how he gets up early in the morning and how he does all sorts of wonderful things. And the answer is no. It should be Hatsnea Lechetim Elokecha. One should try to be humble with God. One should try to be modest and not show these things outside. I do want to say that there is an exception to that, and that is in small groups when we're working together. Rabbi Ashlag does say that we do need to share with each other what we're doing and how we're working, because otherwise we can't get inspired from each other. So in small groups, then yes, we do need to share with each other. But if you're, you know, in general, relating to the world outside the groups, and you want to keep your inner work hidden. All right, you want to be modest. All right, so this is the idea that we cut away stuff which is on the outside. Okay, so within our small groups, within our where we work with each other, then we do need to talk to each other. We do need to share with each other what we're doing and how we're working with each other. And how we're working on ourselves, because then the others get inspired and we get inspired, all right, from each other. But when we are relating to the outside world, then no, then it should be Hatsnei Lechet Im Elokecha, it should be modest. Vasiman, how do we know if the way we're working is right? If we actually want to hide our work from others, then we know that our intention really is true and for the sake of heaven. But if we're really longing to reveal it to other people, and he justifies it with all sorts of different reasons, okay, then in fact that's a sign that our work might not be for the sake of God, all right, and that we should cut that aspect off, all right, prune that aspect away. Somebody's put something in the, how do we put together a group of like-minded people? Well, Baruch Hashem, we've got the beautiful groups that we learn together. And Mefarkin ha'alim me'al gabei ilan lakel me'alav. So the next thing that we do here is pruning. Okay, so what is this aspect of pruning? The truth is that we want the tree to bring out fruit and not so much leaves. Okay, so mefarkin ha'alim me'al gabei ilan means lakel me'alav. We want to lighten the burden of leaves from the tree. Not all of them, you need to leave some obviously, but you don't want the tree to put all its energy into the leaves. That's what why the farmers prune the branches. Now, miteva davar, she'ein ha'ilan motzi perot b'terem sheyesh lo alim. In general, a tree does not bring out fruit unless it's first brought out leaves. First comes the leaves, then comes the fruit. Same thing with a person. He hasn't got the possibility to bring out fruit unless he first brought out leaves. So what is leaves for a human being? It's Torah shelo lishma. It's doing the Torah not for its own sake. Okay? We have to start with that. Why? Because our basic nature is egoistic. That's where we begin. All right? Our basic nature is our will to receive. So when we begin Torah and mitzvot, our negative attributes, our negative motives for ourselves alone are always mixed in. That's Torah, which is not for its own sake. But gradually, as we are working on Torah and mitzvot, even if it's not for its own sake, if we pay attention to the motive and we can ask God to help us clean up the motive, we need to get from Torah which is not for its own sake to Torah for its own sake. So the leaves are Torah which is not for its own sake, and the fruit is the Torah for its own sake. Kamosh Katuv, as it's written, Lolam yasok adam b'Torah mitzvot. A person should always practice Torah mitzvot, af al pi shelo lishma, even though it is not for its own sake. Shemitoch shelo lishma ba lishma, because from not for its own sake, it will come to its own sake. אבל כמו אצל האילן שצריכים לפרק מאליו את העלים, but just like on a tree when we need to take off some of the leaves, כדי להקל מעליו, שיוכל להוציא פירות, to make its burden easier, and he'll put its energy into bringing forth the fruit. כן אצל אדם, likewise with a person, צריכים לפרק את השלא לשמה. We need to not get stuck in the stage of not for its own sake, okay? כדי שיגיע לשמה, so that we will get to Torah for its own sake. אך אם לא יפרק את העלים, but if we don't deal with that, if we stay stuck, okay, we can simply stay in the situation of Torah not for its own sake. אבל אחרי שזכה להגיע למדרגה לשמה, once we get to the level of Torah for its own sake, עליו אומר הכתוב, on which the scripture says, ועליהו לא ייבול, its leaf will not wither. In other words, כל העבודות שהיו בבחינת שלא לשמה, all the work that we did when we were still in the stage of Torah which is not for its own sake, נכנסות אחר כך לקדושה, are also included in holiness, because they were simply the means by which we got to holiness, okay? So we can count that also as being what brought us to holiness, okay? So they're counted. All right. Now, I think this is the very last paragraphs of the whole article. Yeah, which is good. All right. It follows from everything that we've said that the created beings are like trees. זה פירוש. האמן דנפיק ביומי ניסן, וחזי אילני דמלבלבי. היינו שהאילנות כבר התחילו להראות כוחותם לחוץ. אנו שומעים לחוץ שהם כבר רוצים להשפיע פירות לטובת האדם. From what we've seen, from what we've learned from everything above, that the created beings, that's us, the human beings, are like trees, okay? And so this is the inner meaning of that a person goes out in the days of Nisan and he sees trees blossoming, okay? That is, the trees are beginning to show their fruit outside. They're showing their power, their forces within them, their energy within them. And what are they showing? That they're showing that they want to give good fruits for a human being. Okay, when we go out in Nisan, we see the orchards filled with beautiful fruit trees, okay, blossoming, and we say, wow, okay, aren't they beautiful? And we bless. And he created within his world good creatures and good trees. So what does tov mean? What does it mean good? That they want to be giving unconditionally. As it says, Vahash libi devar tov. As the scripture says, my heart whispered a good thing. What's a good thing? She'omer ani masai lamelech. It says, my deeds are for the king. Shezeu tov. And that is what is good. Ve'yot she'ilanot malaf levin. And since the trees are blossoming, hanu mashpi'im, they're giving unconditionally. They're called good trees. Okay, and this is also the proof that there are good human beings. That for sure there are good people. That for sure are doing actions which are only for the sake of giving pleasure to the Creator. mashbiim et perutain, because otherwise the fruits also would not be able to give their fruit. As the sages said, Kol olam kulo nizonim bishvil Hananya banai. As the sages said, the whole world is sustained only for the sake of Hanina, my son. Hanina ben Dosa was a very, very, very righteous Tana and a very, very poor Tana. Okay? So he was only concerned with giving, all right? And because of righteous people like Hanina, okay, they function so that also the trees give. What I mean by this, the human being is the height of creation, all right? According to the human being, the rest of the world goes up and down. We can see it very, very clearly. When we're functioning for our wills to receive for ourselves alone, the ecology of the world deteriorates. When we're functioning for the sake of giving and we're thinking about others, the ecology of the world improves. Okay, so there's a definite connection. There is nothing lacking in the world. God created in our world the Torah and the mitzvot, to which we can come to our perfection, in which case there is nothing lacking in the world, which is, what is our perfection? Using our vessels of receiving only for the sake of giving. So even though God created the will to receive, he gave to us all sorts of tikkun, first of the bread of shame, and he gave us the Torah so that we can come to perfection in giving. So therefore, a person can actually do a little self-accounting every day. That he will recreate his work again from anew. Don't take account of the falling downs of the past. He should have strong faith. Each one of us should have strong trust that from now onwards today, we will merit to succeed, to come to everlasting and complete dveikut with God. Vashem ya'azor lanu mikol tzarotenu, yitain pidut lanafshenu, v'nivashea begashmiut ruchaniut. Amen. Ken yi ratzon. May God help us from all our troubles, give freedom to our souls, and we will be saved in material and spiritual ways. Amen. Ken yi ratzon. That is the end of this amazing, amazing, amazing letter. Okay, so I think I put another picture. There you go. Okay, man is like a tree of the field. I thought it was beautiful.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ida.
You're very, very, very
Thank
welcome.
you.
Thanks.
All right. Okay. Anybody got any questions apart from no? Yes. Anybody?
Just
All
thank
right.
you so much. Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you.
You're very, very welcome, everybody. And it was lovely, lovely seeing you all. So thank you for joining me. I appreciate it very much indeed. It was lovely.
Thank
It
you.
was.
Yeah.
Thank
Okay.
you.
All right, everyone.
Everybody.
Where is this from?
This, oh, sorry, I should,
What,
it's
it's from a sefer of Rabbi Ashlag's?
It's Rabbi Baruch Shalom Ashlag. There's Yehuda Lev Ashlag, who is the Bala Sulam, and his firstborn son was Rabbi Baruch Shalom Ashlag, and he wrote letters and also articles, and he was more what he did was he took his father's work and he made it more applicable, I would say. So this was a letter that he wrote to his students, and it's in a book, Bracha V'Shalom. which has been published by the Baruch Shalom Yeshiva, Kollel. Okay?
Thank you.
All
Thank
right. Very good.
you, Yedidia. It was amazing.
You're welcome.
It was outstanding. Yeah,
Wonderful.
thank
Yeah.
you. You did such beautiful things with the artwork.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I
Huge
tried to make it, yeah. Oh yeah, I forgot. Anybody who's interested, if you want to see more of my work, because there's quite a lot of other stuff, here is my website, nahorapress.com. Okay, there it is. And you can go and have a look. And there's a lot of material there as well. Okay, so you're very, very welcome. All right.
Thank you. Yechi. Thank you so much. So
You're
wonderful.
welcome. Wonderful. It was a good, beautiful.
Perfect timing. Perfect timing. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Shalom, everyone.
Okay,
Thank you.
Hello.
good to see you, Marvin.
Good to see
You're
you.
very good. Yeah, lovely. Okay, very
That
good.
was really
Perfect timing
outstanding.
for this.
Yeah. Okay, great. All right, everyone. I think I'll switch off now. And lovely.